If I want to be able to go through this world and not be angry, I have to remember that people are spiritually sick, hurt people, and I'm not going to let myself be in the pain of hating other people.
So we're here in New York and I'm with Alia. Alia is a special story in that her father is Jewish and her mom is Muslim. And so how did that work growing up? So were you religious in any way?
So my mom, she wanted to raise us Muslim. She came here from Kuwait and brought a lot of, I think she had a struggle between wanting to have us be brought up with, getting to hang out with friends or wear what we want to wear. But at the same time, she was really kind of strict about it. We went to masjid every day after school and wasn't allowed to do much growing up.
So was your house more, had an Islamic influence, or was it more a Jewish influence, or how did that work? Because in today's world, we see that those two worlds seem to be very different. So how did that work at your house?
I think the only reason it worked is because my dad was always he grew up Jewish, but he was always seriously atheist and made that a thing. So I think that's the only reason him and my mom could coexist, was because he just didn't care. And my dad's family they're all very open people. My grandma accepted my mom and everything. My mom had to hide my dad from her family for a long time before they got married. But yeah, I think it worked because my dad just didn't care.
Would you say then that what makes a person Jewish? Because he was certainly Jewish. He didn't believe in God. He was an atheist, which is fine, but he was still Jewish. So what makes a person Jewish in your mind?
I think being Jewish is also a culture, because he's from New York, from Long Island, and they're just New York Jews. Even though my grandma would take us for Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, go to temple, but they're secular. My grandma was a biology teacher, and so I think what makes someone Jewish, it is a ethnicity, because Jews were always pushed off to the side, and so I think it's a cultural thing and also an ethnicity.
Yeah, that's right. So what's really interesting, the three faiths, right? The three Abrahamic faiths are Islam, Judaism, and then Christianity. Do you know anything about Christianity at all?
Not really.
Not at all? You've heard of Jesus? Yeah. So tell me who you think he is, or what kind of person that is. What do you know of him?
I know Jesus was a guy who had a spiritual experience way back when that happened, and he wanted to spread the word, and he definitely existed. And if he was alive today, he definitely would be put in a mental hospital or put in jail. And I think he had good messages to say. I don't know if all the stories in the Bible I don't take them literally, but I think they're good lessons for people.
One of his messages, which we know, is to love people and to serve people, right? And to be humble and not be proud. So you said that he was definitely a person, a real person, and maybe a good teacher. But do you know that he claimed to be God himself?
I didn't know. I thought he never claimed to be God.
Actually, the scriptures say very clearly he claimed to be God, because this is how the story goes. The story goes like this, starting from the beginning in the Hebrew scriptures. We've got a problem, and the problem is that we can't be good enough, which is the problem that we all have. And so one of the big differences between Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, in fact, all religions tend to say we have to keep doing more, and we have to keep doing better things to make our relationship with God closer. So the story of Jesus, he says you don't need to do that. God came down, was born into a human being, suffered with us, so he knew what it was like to be hungry, to be without a home, to suffer. He knew these things. And so his experience isn't just another person, but he lived the perfect life that we couldn't live. Sorry. I'm okay. You know what? I feel for you. That's what it is. Because it's hard. Life is hard. And it's not just he's not just another guy. Your answer's not wrong. He's not just another guy. He's someone who really cares for you.
I guess what confuses me is if God put himself into Jesus, why would God need to do that if God already knows everything?
So the reason is because he relates to our suffering. Because otherwise we could go, you God, you up there, what do you know what it's like to be hungry and to be thirsty and to be tired? What do you know? But God, in his compassion for his creation, gets born, he comes and lives a human life. so that he can relate to us and then lives the perfect life that we couldn't live and makes an exchange. He says, you will never be good enough, or I will never be good enough, or these guys will never be good enough, but I lived it and I can exchange my goodness for you to make you righteous and good. That way, all the things that we've done that are wrong, all the sins we've committed, all of these things are washed clean. He's given us a clean slate. Because when we stand in front of the Creator, one day when we die, He's going to look at us and not look at me or look at you like that. He's going to look at Jesus, who paid for that debt, and said, your debt's paid. You can come in. Every other religion says you need to do more. You need to pray more. You need to be a better person. You need to be good. We can't do it. We can't do enough good to get to who God is. And so the good news is, this is why they say Jesus came, he died for our sins, he was buried, and 3 days later he came back to life to prove that he was God. He wasn't just another man, but an amazing man that if we put our trust in him and what he did, that's how we get into a relationship with God. That's how our life is made better, not because of the things that we do. What do you think about that message?
I don't like really think about Jesus ever. And I think that I have, with my like spirituality, I don't think I need the Bible or like these texts, because I think anyone can like be in touch with God as long as they have like an openness and a willingness in their own heart. I don't really need to look at Jesus because I'm doing fine without it, without Jesus.
No, and that's fine. One of the claims that Jesus made was, he says, the way to the Father is through me. He said, there is no other way. And so a lot of people that are very spiritual miss the point that Jesus is here as a person who can guide us and lead us through the scriptures. He's relational. So it's not just another person, not just a historic figure, but very relational. You're very spiritual. So what kind of things would you do that would help you get closer to God for other people to understand it?
Like, firstly, just making gratitude lists and just remembering, like, the things that I'm grateful for. Praying, that's a huge one. The reason, like, I started exploring, like, spirituality is because I'm in a 12-step program. Otherwise, I probably would have just kept on, like, having this hatred, because I had a hatred towards God and an anger at the world for, like, what has happened to me and, like, the things that I've gone through and that other people go through and, like, the awful things that happen in the world. Like, for a long time, I was like, F God. Like, whoever this is, like, they must be evil if they're allowing all this evil things to happen. But now, like, remembering that people who hurt us are spiritually sick, whether it's, like, as small as looking at my own family or, like, global and looking at how, like, governments and, like, corporations take advantage of people and exploit people and hurt people, and pedophilia and rapists and all those things that exist that are like terrible. If I want to like be able to go through this world and not be angry, I have to remember that people are spiritually sick, hurt people, and I'm not going to let like myself be in the pain of hating other people, because that is a really painful way to live. And like that to me is like spirituality, and asking God to like not let me be angry, to save me from being angry, just to remove my fear and direct my attention towards what he would have me be. Like things like that I find helpful and like bring me closer to God.
Well, it's true. So the world is a place that is just like that. And this is why God actually sent his son Jesus, so that there would be a way out and escape. So I know in the 12-step program, one of the things that you need to do is that there's a greater power, correct? All right. So I'm saying not today, but I'm sure one day you'll see that greater power is actually Jesus himself. And then when you move through the program and you'll learn, they'll never identify that is who it is, but that is who that greater power is. And to know about him is when you read the scriptures, if you just read it like a book, right? You'll get to know the creator and the one who loves us and the one who died for us because of all these problems, enables us to get through our day-to-day. So yeah. Would you be willing to read something for us? This was written, it's in the Old Testament, in the Bible. If you'd read that for us and just tell us what you think.
He is despised and rejected by man, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we did not esteem him. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray, We have turned everyone to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all.
And that's the story. I mean, ultimately, that's what Jesus came and did. He was one who suffered like we suffered, and he understood suffering, and he took that suffering on himself.
But don't you think that, like, when you start, like, praising one man, like Jesus Christ, then if, for me, like, no one is above anyone, and, like, I don't think there's any human, whether it's even Jesus, that is above anyone.
Well, he made that point. In fact, he said, I come to be a servant. And so he was a servant. But the difference between Jesus and everybody else is that he's fully human, he's fully man, but at the same time, he's fully God. He was God who came and manifested himself as a human being and lived with us. And that's the difference. It's not like God is not a man in the sky, but he came down. He still holds the universe together. But in the person of Jesus, he's both fully God and fully man at the same time.
That's interesting.
Well, that's what he says. In fact, he says, I poured out all of the privilege that I have as the creator and came and lived amongst people so that I could feel how they felt, suffer with them, and know what it's like to suffer. And that's what he did. So in other words, even though he was God, he put aside all his godlike powers, I guess, and lived as a real human being so that he may know who we are and we could know who he is.
Because there is the one thing that some of the most religious people I've met have turned out to be, like, really, like, every time I've come, like, close to communities that are, like, super, super religious, there's always some weird that's, like, beneath the surface.
And you are right. And that's exactly the problem that we have, is because anything that you have, man gets involved and makes it into something else. When you have a Bible, you have what the scriptures, right? You don't have to think what the Pope tells you, the priest tells you, the pastor tells you, the imam tells you, the rabbi tells you, because that is a man-made system, and that is the problem. Because every time we put our trust in the systems, it fails, which you've experienced. And so what we're encouraging people to do is to just read for themselves, things like this. Read the Bible yourself. There are some things that are bad, right? But of course, but because that's life. If it was a fairy tale, it would be all things end up well, but it's not. And so there's just encouragement in the scriptures, especially the New Testament, about Jesus' life. I'm sure if you read it, I think you would relate much to who he is and learn to actually appreciate what he came and done and what he's doing and who he is.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe you try it. And the reason I'm saying it is not to see Jesus through the eyes of other people.
Just out of curiosity, like,
Right.
yeah, from a curious perspective.
To see for yourself, not what other people say, not what other religious groups say, but what you see and what you can read.